The darkest secrets of the Soviet era were not held in military bunkers, but in the deep psychological laboratories of the state security. We delve into one of the most persistent and horrific legends, the KGB's alleged quest to eliminate the essential human need for sleep. Welcome to Project Tranquility, an experiment so ruthless its very existence challenges the absolute limits of human endurance and cruelty. This is the truth behind the fear of the sleepless soldier. The story begins immediately after the war, in the late 1940s, a time when the Soviet intelligence apparatus sought to understand and ruthlessly eliminate all forms of human weakness. Sleep was deemed a critical liability that could compromise agents and soldiers. The solution? A potent experimental gaseous stimulant meticulously engineered to suppress fatigue indefinitely. The experiment was conducted in a remote, sealed underground facility, Sector Gamma, a place designed for total isolation. 5 test subjects were confined to an airtight chamber, promised release after 30 days. Their environment was sterile, but their only companion was the constant stimulating flow of an odorless gas being carefully pumped into the room via a complicated ventilation system. For the first 7 days, the project was a disturbing success. The subjects stayed awake, communicating normally through microphones. They discussed their caste, their beliefs, and the promise of a future without the need for rest. But by day 10, the first signs of extreme paranoia began to manifest. Conversations turned frantic, then wildly accusatory against the unseen overseers. The silence in the chamber became broken only by frantic whispers and distorted screams directed at the microphones. Days 15 through 20 marked the critical turning point. The subjects had almost stopped speaking entirely, choosing to communicate only by scribbling desperate, cryptic messages onto the condensation-covered glass of the portholes. Most of the scribbles concerned the terrifying, escalating effects of the gas, urging their overseers not to stop the flow, fearing the consequences of true exhaustion. The psychological deterioration was extreme. The physical signs of distress, the dark lesions, the bloodshot eyes were even worse. External observers watching via closed-circuit cameras noted a profoundly disturbing change in behavior. The subjects' voices, when they did speak, became harsh, unnatural, and guttural. Then the silence was shattered again, but this time with terrifying, unmistakable sounds of violent self-mutilation and purposeful tearing. The subjects had begun attacking their own bodies, stuffing the torn tissue into the chamber's complex drainage system to prevent the stimulant gas from leaving the chamber. They were fighting to maintain the chemical high. On the morning of day 31, with all audio and visual feeds failing, the KGB command made the agonizing decision to breach the sealed containment of Sector Gamma. The entry team, composed of specially trained military personnel, were unprepared for the scene of unparalleled psychological and physical horror that greeted them. Log entries from the entry team detailed that the powerful gas had done more than suppress the need for sleep. It had systematically suppressed the body's natural response to trauma and pain. The subjects were no longer recognizably human. They were physically ruined, yet terrifyingly alert. They exhibited superhuman, almost reflexive aggression, using their own bones as weapons. Their desperate, repeated demand was to be allowed to remain awake, fearing the consequences of the long-delayed sleep. The official records of the Soviet state mandate that Project Tranquility was shut down immediately. its horrific findings ordered destroyed, and the Sector Gamma facility permanently sealed under layers of concrete. But the terrifying questions remain. Were the subjects executed after the confrontation? And were the revolutionary yet horrifying results of this experiment ever quietly utilized for enhanced interrogation or new forms of psychological warfare by the intelligence services in the years that followed? The persistent legend of the KGB sleep experiment serves as a grim warning. There are certain psychological and biological frontiers that perhaps should never be crossed. And when deep state secrecy meets absolute power, the human price paid in the pursuit of chemical perfection is unspeakable and often forgotten. Share your thoughts on Project Tranquility below. What other classified KGB secrets should we uncover? Like and subscribe to ChillX Enigma for more dark history.